Hello guys, welcome to the session and I hope all of you guys are doing good. So in the last two sessions we had a discussion about the concept of supervised learning. And today we are going to discuss about the concept on unsupervised way of machine learning. So first of all, we'll understand what it is, where it can be used, and then we'll have some mathematical understanding about that also. So as we discussed in the last two sessions that my machine learning is basically divided into three broad categories. One is supervised, second is unsupervised, and third is reinforcement. Supervised we segregated into regression and classification, which we had a discussion. Like again, this is a very broad subject. Whatever I can able to talk about in 1 hour of time, we able to discuss that. But this is really very broad subject. Same way, there is a technique called clustering, which comes under unsupervised way of machine learning. There are various algorithms. Again, you will see inside clustering, like k-means clustering, hierarchical clustering, and we have dbScan clustering. So in this particular session, we are going to get the brief idea about what k-means clustering is all about. Again, as I mentioned, these are like very deep concepts, right? It's obviously not going to be discussed in 1 hour of time. This is just an understanding which we are giving you. Now, first of all, what is unsupervised machine learning? Why it is considered as unsupervised machine learning? Let's try to understand that. If you remember, supervised machine learning is nothing but I have a data set. I am splitting the data into test and train. This is my train data. This is my test data. Right? I'm segregating the data into test and train. On the train data, we are creating the model. And on the test data, we are running the model and get the accuracy. Right? We are getting the accuracy. So that we'll understand what is the accuracy and how my model is performing. But what about unsupervised machine learning approach? In unsupervised machine learning approach, there is nothing like this concept of splitting the data into test and train because there is no Y to it. We had the Y, right, which I have to predict. If I talk about the regression, I want to predict the salary or car price. We took the example. If I talk about classification, I have to predict Y, where my customer is going to purchase the product or not. So I have to predict Y for my future data points. That is what my requirement is. But in clustering, there is nothing like Y for us. That means I see that there are 62 attendees in the class as of now. I want to basically know out of all these 62 students who are going to purchase data science course. These are my 62 students. I want to know who are going to purchase the data science course. Now I will take this data and try to understand the data. For example, let's say out of the 62 people, 30 belongs to IT, 15 belongs to medical, and 17 belongs to, let's say, acting. Right? So now I am understanding that my data is basically having these type of people. 30 are from IT, 15 from medical, 17 from acting. So obviously, medical may not, maybe, but may not be going to purchase the product. Acting, most probably they will not. what they will do with understanding k-means clustering, right? So these are like strict no, they will not purchase the product. They may be attending because of just for the sake of attending. Medical people, they may use to segregate their patients, but obviously they have their IT team also available, so they can take care of it. So, but they want to know the understanding of the topic. They may be interested to learn data science, but the majority of the people are actually the IT folks who are going to actually purchase the course on data science because they will require day in, day out in their work. So out of this 62 attendees in this particular class, I want to market my data science course. My budget is limited. My budget is limited. I cannot market all the 62 attendees in the class because that is a cost for me. I cannot have that much of amount for marketing. So what I can do, I will create a clusters. All the IT people, all the marketing people, all the or medical people, all the acting people. So I know that this is the cluster because I created the plot based on my education or based on my job profile. I have this cluster which are of IT people. Chances of these guys to purchase the product is more, so I will do just marketing to these folks. Because here the conversion ratio will be high, right? Because if I'm marketing 30 people, there are chances that 20 people may purchase. But if I market maybe acting guys, out of 17 people, maybe 1 or 2 may purchase. Right? So here the conversion ratio is very high. So basically clustering is a technique which is nothing but in my existing data set, I just have to cluster my data based on various features. Now you will say that, okay, why machine learning is required? We can do in Excel, we can do the filter. Why all these things is required? When we are dealing with a high dimensional data, when there are more dimensions, right, then things will not be very much easy. Right? How many filters will you apply in the Excel? Things gonna be very tough. Right? Handling the data is quite tough. You must all have credit cards. Right? You must all have credit cards. Now, you must be getting called that you are a platinum customer, you are a gold customer, you are a silver customer, you are a bronze customer. You must have got these type of calls, right? So they are segregating you based on your data, basically. For example, they have your salary details, and they have your spending score details. Let's say they have internal calculation based on how many usages you have of the credit card. They are creating the some score, spending score. Now let's say these are some of the folks who are my customers. These are some of the folks who are my customer. These are some of the folks who are my customer. These are some of the folks who are my customer, and these are some of the folks who are my customers. So from this data, I can clearly say, right, that I have 5 clusters in my data set. My very first cluster is this cluster where the salary is very less and spending score is also very less. Second is this cluster where salary is very high but spending score is less. I have one more cluster where I have my average salary and average spending score. I have one more cluster where I have the salary is low but the spending score is very high. And finally, I have one cluster where I have salary is also very high and the spending is also very high. 5 clusters I am able to build. Now let's say I am coming up with very expensive product. I am coming up with very expensive product. This is my cluster number 1. Let's say this is my cluster number 2. Let's say this is my cluster number 3. This is my cluster number 4. This is my cluster number 5. My marketing budget is very less. And I am coming up with very expensive product. Which cluster will you target? It is quite obvious, right? I will target cluster number 5. The reason being I have high salary and high spending score. Let's say I have some more budget that I can spend some more money on marketing. I already targeted all the customer with cluster number 5, but still I have some money with me. Which is the next one? Which cluster will you target the next? I will target cluster number 4. The reason being here the spending score is very high. Salary is low, no doubt about that, but their spending score is actually high. Maybe they are using credit card a lot, right? And they pay the bill later on, but they have a good spending score. Almost same as these folks. So why not let's target these guys also? They may purchase the product. Right, so that is the idea we get from the clustering. And here, see, I am not predicting any Y. I am just segregating the data into multiple clusters. Let's say I have certain records, row number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have lot many rows in my data set. What I am doing is I am segregating the data into cluster. Let's say these points are cluster number 1, these points are cluster number 2, these points are cluster number 3, and so on. We are just segregating the data into various clusters. That is why we don't require to break the data into test and train. Because see, why we are breaking the data into test and train? Because I have the yi for me. So if I create the model on the train data set and test the model on the train data set, test the model on the test data set, I have already the y with me, right? So whatever predictions are coming in, I can compare with this y. That's why the splitting of the data is required. But here, I don't have any y. I don't have to predict any y. I just have to segregate the data based on the features of my whatever data set is. Right. So that is why we really don't require to split the data into test and train. And that's why it is not considered as supervised machine learning. It is actually unsupervised machine learning. Right. So that is the whole idea. Now with this concept, we'll go ahead and basically try to understand the mathematics now. What's happening at the back end. So it's a very simple mathematics. There is a concept of Euclidean distance. At the end, what I want? At the end, I want to create the clusters, right? Let's say I have a point, this point, this point, this point, and this point. I want to create the cluster. So what we are doing? This is one cluster, this is one cluster. How you are deciding that? Because of the distance between the points. I see that these 2 points are near. I see that these 2 points are near. Now what does that mean? I have one point, x1, y1. I have another point, x2, y2. I want to find the distance between these 2 points, which is nothing but the Pythagoras theorem, right? x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square, right? And square root of that. That is what the formula is, right? y2 minus y1 whole square. And that will give me the distance d. If the distance is less, make it one cluster. So the distance between these 2 points are less. Distance between these 2 points are less. They became in one cluster. They came in same cluster. And that is the simple maths. That is what happening at the back end. Finding the basically distance between the points is the key logic which we have in the k-means clustering. But still, there is very important steps which you have to perform. What happens is that in k-means clustering, the algorithm which we are going to talk about, here is my data set. Now from this data set, I want to understand how many are the best number of clusters. Shall I go with one cluster, or shall I go with 2 clusters, or shall I go with 3 clusters, or 4, or how many? I am not sure. Shall I go with n cluster? What is the value of n, right? How many clusters shall I go for? That is important for me to understand. So there is a concept of elbow method, which is helping me understand that how many clusters are the best number of clusters I can have in my data set. I can obviously play around with number of clusters. Let's say I'll create 1 cluster or 2 cluster or 3 cluster or 10 clusters. But I want to know which is the best, which is actually helping me to segregate the data properly, more correctly. So in that case, machine comes up with one beautiful concept of elbow method. Now what happens in the elbow method? Let's try to understand that. What happens is that here is my data points. I have all the data points out here. What I will do is I will find the centroid of the data points. Centroid is nothing but the center point, right? Centroid is nothing but the center point. Now, once I have the center point is nothing but the average of the spending score and average of the salary. That is what this blue point is, the center point. Now I will find the distance between this blue point with all the points, right? I will find the distance of this blue point with all the points using the Euclidean distance formula. Again, there are various different distances are available. Euclidean, Manhattan, and other distances are there, Hamming distance and so on. But as of now, people are using Euclidean or Manhattan most of the times. We'll go with Euclidean as of now. It's simple for us to understand. I will find the distance of this point with all the points. And basically, it is coming up with a one big cluster. I created one big cluster. I will sum up the entire distance. This is my blue point. I will sum up the distance of the blue point with all the orange point distance. I will get one number, right? Sum of the distances basically. Sum of this distance plus this distance plus this distance plus this distance plus this distance and so on. I'll find the distance of every points. And I will do what? I will go ahead and plot that in the chart. This x-axis means how many clusters you have created. Y-axis means what is the sum of the Euclidean distance. I created one cluster. With one cluster, what is the sum of the Euclidean distance? This is the sum of the Euclidean distance for one cluster. Right? Same way, I will create now two clusters. I'll break the data into two different pieces. I have two clusters. Both the clusters have its own centroid. I will find the distance of the centroid with all the points in that cluster, all the points in another cluster. I will sum up. I will sum up this distance and this distance. Whatever distance are coming in, you can see here. Obviously, that distance will be a bit less than the previous distance. Same way, I will create 3 clusters, 4 clusters, 5 clusters, 6 clusters, and so on. You will notice that at a certain point, you will see that at this particular point, after this point, the reduction in the distance is very less. Reduction in the distance is very less. And that is my ideal number of clusters. Right? These are my ideal number of clusters which I can have in my data set. So basically this elbow method is helping me understand that how many clusters are the ideal number of clusters in the data set. So we found out that. Right? Now, once we found out this, what to do? That is good that we got the number of clusters. But now what is the next step? Now next step will be, I have the data points again. This time I will initialize my cluster with 3 clusters only. So as I am initializing my cluster with 3 clusters only, what will happen is that it will generate 3 centroids randomly. Machine will generate 3 centroids randomly. When machine will generate 3 centroids randomly, it will start finding the distance of that individual centroid with all the points. Right? I'll find the distance of this blue point with all the points. I will find the distance of this green point with all the points. I will find the distance of this yellow point with all the points. Right? And then whichever points are near to the blue point will become one cluster. Whichever point which are near to the yellow point will become one cluster. And whichever points are near to the green point will become one cluster. Once that is done, what will happen is that my centroid will shift. Now, why centroid will shift? Because these are the centroids which was randomly created by the machine at the start of the algorithm. This is not the actual centroid of this cluster, right? This is not the actual centroid of this cluster. This is not actual centroid of this cluster. Basically, what happened is that my machine created 3 random centroids. Whichever points are near to that, it became the same cluster. But it may have a different centroid. This cluster may have a different centroid. This cluster may have a different centroid. This cluster may have a different centroid. So what it will do, it will recalculate the centroid based on the cluster. It will find what is the centroid of this cluster. It will find what is the centroid of this cluster. It will find what is the centroid of this cluster. So during that process, obviously there are chances that my centroid will shift. That okay, the centroid of this point is this cluster is this. Centroid is center point, but let's say the points are more heavy here. Let's say there is one more extra point. Because of that, this shifted. Same way here also, it's bit shifted. Here also, it will bit shifted down. Now, once the centroid has changed, once my centroid has changed, these are my new centroids. And now I will find the distance of this centroid with all the points again. This centroid with all the points again. And this centroid with all the points again. I will do this calculation again. And during that process, there are chances that some of the points which are near to the blue centroid may be shifted to green centroid, because green centroid is now near to those points as compared to the blue centroid, because blue centroid shifted towards right side and this is down, but still I find the distance of this green centroid more near to these points as compared to this point. So shifting in the points happened. So basically my point shifted. Now once my point shifted, I will again find the centroid, because now here I had 8 points in this cluster, but now I have 6 points. As I have 6 points, my centroid will change, because earlier I had 8 points. So average will change. It may go more towards right. Here it may go a little bit up because 2 points are at the top. So this green centroid may go towards up. The centroid will change again. So this centroid will change happen again and again and again till the time there will not be any shift of the points from one cluster to the another cluster. Till that the iteration will happen. We can restrict the iteration also in the algorithm, but that is how it works. So these are my final number of clusters. Let's say there is no shifting happened after this iteration. These are my final number of clusters. Right? So that is how the entire k-means clustering works. Now, once k-means clustering is worked, now we have to understand how to check the accuracy of the cluster, whether the cluster is created correct or not, whether I can say that cluster is good or not, or whether it is properly built or not. So for that, there is a concept of silhouette score, silhouette analysis comes into picture. What happens is that, again, there are various metrics again for checking the accuracy of the clustering. One is silhouette score. Second is basically done index. We normally use silhouette score more. So because it's simple to understand. Now, what is a silhouette score? Let's say I am finding let's say I want to know whether this particular point I want to know whether this particular point is correctly built or not, or whether this point should be in this cluster or this point should be in this cluster, is what I need to understand, right? So what I'll do is I will find the distance of this point with all these points. Let's take the average of these distances. Let's denote it as A. Then what I will do, I will find the distance of this point with all these points belonging to the another cluster. Let's call the average of this distance as B. After that, what I will do, there is a formula for silhouette score or silhouette analysis, is nothing but B minus A upon max of B minus A. Now, if you guys think logically, if let's say B is bigger than A, then this value will become what? Positive. If B is smaller than A, then this value will become what? Negative. And when B is equal to A, then this value will become what? 0. So my silhouette score is varying from -1 to +1. More towards +1, better the clustering is. Because see, if A is less, then only it will be positive. That means you are saying that this point is actually more near to these points. That is why A is less. If this point is more near to these points, then my B will be less. If B will be less, that means the cluster which is built is wrong, because this point should be in that cluster, not in this cluster. So basically, when my values of the silhouette score is coming out to be negative, that means that the cluster is wrongly built. We need to change the number of cluster and we need to check that. When it is more towards 1, that is correctly built. And when it is more towards 0, or I can say 0, in that case it is a boundary case. So basically I can have the point maybe in this cluster or maybe in this cluster. It's a boundary case for me, right? So that is how we can find the accuracy. You can see I already wrote the formula here. Call it as A, call it as B, the distance. Then this is the formula, B minus A upon max of B minus A. Let's say this point is here, so it's a boundary case, right? So that is how we can actually solve this clustering problem. Now what I'll do is I'll take the example here. You can see I have the data set which consists of the age, annual income, spending score. I want to create a cluster. I am only taking these two columns as of now, annual income and spending score. I'm not taking age. Right, so I am taking only two columns, annual income and spending score. What I am doing, I am splitting the data into X, because there is no Y now, only X is there, right? So I have X, which is column number 3 and 4. So basically, column number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Column 3, 4 will participate. 5 column is not there, will not participate. This is like a slicing how Python works, if you know Python. Now, once I have X, which consists of my these two columns, which is the spending score and annual income, the values are almost in the same scale, but it's good to do the feature scaling, which we discussed in the last session. I did not do here, but it's good to do because we are working on the distances. Salary or annual income is in rupees. Spending score is unitless. Spending score is maybe some ratio. Right, so it's good to have feature scaling, which I did not do here as of now, but we can do that. After that, here I'm applying the sklearn.cluster import k-means, where I have I is equal to 1 to 11, where I'm creating 11 clusters one by one simultaneously. Using this k means plus plus, basically k means plus plus is helping me to create the random centroids, right, in a correct position rather than just very much far from each other, right? So it helped me to initiate my centroids, and I am appending WCSS is a list which I am creating. 1 to 11, basically I am going to create 10 clusters from 1 to 10. 11 will not participate. I will iterate on the for loop. The first value of I will be 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. It will generate 1 cluster, then 2 cluster, then 3 cluster. I will fix the data in that many clusters, and I will append the inertia is nothing but the distance which we got here, right, in the PPT. This distance, 1 cluster, 2 cluster, 3 cluster, whatever distance we are capturing is what you will capture here, and then you will see this elbow method. From this data set, I see that 5 number of clusters are the best number of clusters for me. And if I visualize the data, you can clearly see here also that my data is actually properly clustered into 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like there are 5 clusters in my data set. So now I will go ahead and create a cluster with 5 clusters in my data set. And for every data points, I actually got the cluster number. Cluster number 0, cluster number 1, cluster number 2, cluster number 3, cluster number 4. 5 clusters are created. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So once I got the cluster, I will join my original data with the cluster number so that I will able to understand, okay, this guy belongs to cluster number 3. This guy is also belongs to cluster number 3. Looks like cluster number 3 is nothing but low salary is low and spending score is low. If you see cluster number 2, the salary is low but the spending score is high, right? So all the points where the salary is low but the spending score is high are my cluster number 2. Cluster number 1 is nothing but salary is high, spending score is low. Cluster number 4 is nothing but salary is high, spending score is also high. Right? So that is how we can understand the data. And we plot that data here again in the Python. You can see that I have 5 clusters. And I gave, this is the code basically. Here code says that I am looking for cluster number 0. 0 is my first column, x of 0. What is x? X is my array, which consists of annual income and spending score. So 0 is nothing but my annual income column. 1 is nothing but my spending score column. And I am only picking up the cluster number 0 records, which are in red in color. S is equal to 100 means size of the circle. So this center one. So cluster number 0 is nothing but average salary and average spending score. That is what I understand from here. Cluster number 1 means yellow color. This one. High salary but low spending score. Cluster number 1. You can see here. Salary is very high but spending score is very low. And that is what we are understanding from the plot also. Cluster number 2 means black color. That means low salary but high spending score. Let's go to cluster number 2. We'll see somewhere here. Low salary, high spending score. Perfect. That is what we are seeing here. Then blue color is nothing but low salary, low spending score. Cluster number 3. So cluster number 3, low salary, low spending score. Right? Low salary, low spending score. Looking good. And cluster number 4 is nothing but pink color. High salary, high spending score. That we already saw, right? High salary, high spending score. So I created the cluster. Either I can see in the plot or I can take this data and I can share this with the, let's say I want to sell the product. I will share this data with the customers, the call center executives, and then I will ask them to call these customers as per my requirement. Let's say my product is very expensive. So I will target which cluster? Cluster number 4 first of all, right? Because cluster number 4 is nothing but high salary and high spending score. So I'll go with that first of all. I'll target them. If I see that, okay, these people are purchasing and still I have marketing budget, then I may go with black clusters also, where the annual income is low, but the spending score is high, which is nothing but cluster number 2. So cluster number 2 are nothing but low salary, high spending score. So I can target these folks also. So I can clearly give the instruction to the call center executive that this is the data set. Try to focus on cluster number 4. If you think that still there is a budget, if you think that still there is a time, call on the cluster number 2 people also, because cluster number 2 people having low salary but the spending score is high. Our product is very expensive, so we may see that those people can purchase the product as well. Right, so that is how this entire thing will work. After that, what we have to do? We have to check whether the cluster which I have built with 5 clusters, is that correct or not? Is that looking good or not? We have the concept of silhouette score. From sklearn.matrix, import silhouette score. I am taking my X as an input and Y, which is my cluster number, YK means, which I have created here with 5 clusters. I am passing that in this particular code. I am getting a number 0.55. Now 0.55 is basically between 0 and 1, right? Basically my silhouette score is what? Varying from -1 to +1. More towards 0, boundary case. More towards -1, wrong cluster. More towards +1, right cluster. My cluster silhouette score is how much? 0.55, which is nothing but 0.55. It's falling somewhere here, more towards +1. That means the cluster which I have built is actually the correct cluster. Normally, when we are getting this thing, right, the elbow method gives me the best idea that what is the best number of clusters. If you go with 1 cluster, 2 cluster, 3 cluster, 4 cluster, in fact 6 cluster, 7 cluster, 8 cluster, your silhouette score gonna be less only. The best silhouette score you will get is at the cluster number 5 only, which elbow method is telling us. If you go with the 6 cluster, my silhouette score will fluctuate. It will go at the lower side. If I create 4 cluster, my silhouette score will further fluctuate. It will again go at the lower side. So elbow method always gives me the best silhouette score because it gives me the best number of clusters I can have in my data set. Sometimes there are chances that I may be dependent. I may not want machine to decide how many clusters I should have. I want to decide by myself that how many clusters I can have as per my requirement rather than machine giving me the idea. So in that case, there are other concepts also available, which we can use like dendrogram and so on, which again, we are not discussing here. But as of now here, I am dependent on the machine. What machine is saying me? Machine is saying 5. We'll go and create 5 cluster. And then based on my requirement, I will target those customers which are present in different clusters. Let's say I'm coming up with very cheap product, affordable product. So in that case, I may target the people with a lower salary and lower spending score also. And this is the use case is very wide. Clustering is a technique where the use cases are very wide. People are using it a lot in various different fields, right? You can check in the Wikipedia also. It's like one of the very nice techniques and highly used. Right, so you can see below where all we can use clustering. There will be a list of use cases. You can see here biology, computational biology, bioinformatics. I can have plant, animal ecology, transcriptomics, sequence analysis, high throughput genotyping platforms, medicine, right? Medical imaging, analysis of antimicrobial activity, IMRT segmentation, market research. In the social media also, social network analysis, search result grouping. Then in computer science, software evaluation, image segmentation, evolutionary algorithms, recommendation systems, crime analytics, education data mining, right? Mathematical chemistry, field robotics, finance, petroleum, geochemistry. It's like huge. It's a huge subject, right? And highly used by the industry. Because at the end, I want to hit my correct audience. For example, let's say class is going on. I want to know which students are able to grasp the concepts, which students are not able to grasp the concepts. We can conduct the tests. During that test, I will get some scores. So from that score, that's one of the features. And again, there will be many features which we can capture. We can decide, okay, these guys are actually poor and not able to understand the concepts. I may spend more time with them, try to help them understand what's going on. Same way, if I want to target the excellent students, let's say for placements, so I can create a cluster. I know that these are the excellent folks and they may convert the job. So I can target them. I will give them a mock interview and all those things, sessions, right? So that is how it will help me to solve the problem. So that is some of the examples which we have discussed, but this is like a vast concept. You can apply in anywhere. Credit card, patient segregation, customer segregation, and lot more. Product segregation. It's a huge subject area. So with that note, this is what I wanted to cover. I hope this makes sense. So in the entire 3 day session, we had a discussion about regression, classification, and clustering. Regression, we took one small example. We understood the concepts like R square, then what is the correlation coefficient, right? How to find the slope of a line, how to find the intercept, all those things we discussed. In the yesterday's session, we had a discussion about the classification where we talk about the k nearest neighbor, how k nearest neighbor can lead to overfitting or underfitting, in which scenarios k nearest neighbor will fail. All those details we discussed. We talked about confusion matrix in the last class, how to find the accuracy of the classification problem. Confusion matrix is one of the matrix. We can have another matrix also, which can solve and give me the accuracy of the model. Today we had a discussion about the clustering, where we discussed about the concept of elbow method, how Euclidean distance helped me to find. Euclidean distance we discussed in the last class also, while we discussed k nearest neighbor. So you can understand how important is that. After that, we discussed about Silhouette score, how to find the accuracy of the model, why it is considered as supervised and unsupervised machine learning, right? Why classification and regression is considered as supervised and clustering is considered as unsupervised machine learning. We discussed that. So with this, I'll stop here. I hope this will help you to understand the basic idea. But as I mentioned that this is like a big subject. I can speak about it for, I did not touch the deep maths of it, right? So I can speak about this for 50, 60 hours. It's a big subject and a lot of exploration is required as well. But this is just to help you understand what are these techniques and how this is actually impacting the world these days, right? Companies are using it a lot. They are changing all the decision makings and all using these machine learning techniques and artificial intelligence techniques. But machine learning technique is like, as of now, people are using a lot. AI techniques slowly coming into picture, but as of now the demand is more on machine learning, but slowly AI will also gonna be there for sure. With that note, thank you guys, stay safe. Any questions, please let me know. All right, so no questions coming in. Okay. All right then. Take care, guys, and stay safe. Thanks.